Speaking many languages with remarkable fluency, Cleopatra became one of the most fascinating rulers in history. Born in 69 BC, she was the last active queen of ancient Egypt and a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that ruled the country after the death of Alexander the Great. Unlike most of her ancestors, Cleopatra learned the Egyptian language and is believed to have spoken many other languages, allowing her to communicate directly with people from different cultures without interpreters.
Facing political challenges from an early age, Cleopatra fought to secure her throne and protect Egypt from growing Roman power. She formed famous alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony, using her intelligence, education, and diplomatic skill to strengthen her kingdom. More than 2,000 years after her death, Cleopatra remains one of the most famous and influential women in world history. If you're eager to hear her incredible story in full, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay tuned. Your subscription helps us bring you more fascinating biographies to support your English learning journey.
Cleopatra VII was the last queen and active pharaoh of ancient Egypt. She ruled the Ptolemaic kingdom from 51 before Christ until her death in 30 before Christ. Although her family was originally Greek, Cleopatra respected Egyptian culture and became the only ruler of her dynasty known to learn the Egyptian language. She also spoke several other languages, making it easy for her to communicate with people from different countries without interpreters.
Cleopatra was born in Alexandria, the capital of Egypt. Before he died, her father, Ptolemy XII, chose her to rule the kingdom. She first shared the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, but the two soon became enemies and fought a civil war. At the same time, the Roman leader Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt. Cleopatra gained his support, and together they defeated Ptolemy XIII. After the victory, Cleopatra became queen again and ruled with another younger brother, Ptolemy XIV. She and Caesar later had a son named Caesarion.
After Julius Caesar was assassinated in Rome, Cleopatra returned to Egypt. She later formed a political alliance and a romantic relationship with the Roman general Mark Antony. Together they had 3 children and worked to protect Egypt from the growing power of Rome. However, Antony's rival, Augustus, declared war on them. In 31 BC, Antony and Cleopatra were defeated at the Battle of Actium. The following year, Antony died by suicide. Soon afterward, Cleopatra also took her own life, most likely by using poison rather than becoming a prisoner of Rome.
After Cleopatra's death, Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. Her death ended both the Ptolemaic dynasty and the Hellenistic period in Egypt. Today, Cleopatra is remembered as a smart, brave, and well-educated queen. She is famous not only for her beauty but also for her intelligence, leadership, and ability to speak many languages. Her life continues to inspire books, movies, plays, and works of art around the world.
The name Cleopatra comes from the ancient Greek language and means glory of her father. It is made from 2 Greek words, kleos, meaning glory, and pater, meaning father. The name was already well known before Cleopatra VII was born. It was the name of Cleopatra of Macedon, the sister of Alexander the Great, and also appeared in Greek mythology.
The name became part of the Ptolemaic royal family when Cleopatra I, Syra, married King Ptolemy V.
Several queens of the dynasty were later named Cleopatra, with Cleopatra VII becoming the most famous of them all. During her reign, she also used the royal title Thea Philopater, which means the goddess who loves her father.
The rulers of the Ptolemaic dynasty were crowned as Egyptian pharaohs by the high priest at Memphis, but they lived in Alexandria, a large city founded by Alexander the Great. Alexandria was a center of Greek culture, and the Ptolemaic rulers spoke Greek and followed Greek traditions. Most of them never learned the Egyptian language or fully accepted Egyptian customs.
Cleopatra was different from the rulers before her. She was the first member of the Ptolemaic dynasty known to learn the Egyptian language. She also spoke several other languages, including Greek, Latin, Hebrew or Aramaic, Arabic, and the languages of neighboring kingdoms. Because she could speak with many different people without interpreters, Cleopatra became a skilled diplomat. Her knowledge of languages helped her build relationships with other nations and strengthened her position as queen.
Long before Cleopatra became queen, Rome had already begun to influence Egypt's politics. After the death of her grandfather, King Ptolemy IX, his daughter Berenice III became queen. However, many powerful people did not want a woman to rule alone. The Roman dictator Sulla arranged for her to marry Ptolemy XI. Soon after the wedding, Ptolemy XI had Berenice killed, but the people of Egypt were so angry that they killed him in a public uprising.
After Ptolemy XI died, Rome gained more influence over Egypt. Because earlier kings had left claims to their kingdom in Roman hands, Rome believed it had the right to interfere in Egyptian affairs. Instead of taking complete control, the Romans placed members of the royal family on different thrones. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII Auletes, became king of Egypt, while his brother was given the island of Cyprus. This growing Roman influence would later play a major role in Cleopatra's life and reign.
Early childhood.
Cleopatra VII was born in early 69 BC in the city of Alexandria, Egypt. She was the daughter of King Ptolemy XII, the ruler of Egypt. Historians are not completely certain who her mother was, but many believe it was Queen Cleopatra V Tryphonina. Cleopatra had an older sister, Berenice IV, a younger sister, Arsinoe IV, and two younger brothers, Ptolemy XIII and Ptolemy XIV.
As a young princess, Cleopatra received an excellent education. Her tutor, Philostratos, taught her subjects such as public speaking, philosophy, and Greek literature. She also likely studied at the famous Library of Alexandria, one of the greatest centers of learning in the ancient world. There, she learned about history, science, mathematics, and many other subjects, helping her become one of the most educated rulers of her time.
Before she became queen.
When Cleopatra was a child, Rome was becoming more powerful and wanted greater control over Egypt. In 65 BC, some Roman leaders suggested that Egypt should become part of the Roman Republic. To protect his kingdom, Cleopatra's father, King Ptolemy XII, gave expensive gifts and large amounts of money to important Roman politicians, including Pompey and later Julius Caesar. These payments helped him keep Rome's support, but they also emptied Egypt's treasury and forced him to borrow large sums of money.
In 58 BC, Rome took control of Cyprus, which had belonged to the Ptolemaic family. Ptolemy XII's brother, who ruled the island, took his own life rather than be captured by the Romans. Many Egyptians were angry that their king did nothing to stop Rome from taking Cyprus. Because of this, and because of his heavy taxes and debts, the people rebelled and forced Ptolemy XII to leave Egypt. He traveled to Rome to ask for help in winning back his throne. Cleopatra, who was about 11 years old, may have gone with him. While Ptolemy XII was in Rome, his eldest daughter, Berenice IV, ruled Egypt. She sent representatives to Rome to convince the Roman Senate that she should remain queen. However, Ptolemy secretly arranged for the leaders of her mission to be killed. Even so, the Roman Senate refused to send an army to restore him to power. Instead, Ptolemy stayed in the city of Ephesus and continued asking his powerful Roman friends for help.
Finally, in 55 BC, Pompey persuaded the Roman governor of Syria, Aulus Gabinius, to invade Egypt and restore Ptolemy XII as king. Among the Roman officers in the army was the young soldier Mark Antony. After defeating Berenice's forces, the Romans returned Ptolemy XII to the throne. Berenice IV was captured and executed for leading the rebellion against her father. Cleopatra, who was about 14 years old, likely witnessed these dramatic events. Years later, Mark Antony claimed that he had first met Cleopatra during this campaign and had admired her even then. After Ptolemy XII returned to the throne, the Roman governor Aulus Gabinius went back to Rome. He was later put on trial for abusing his power and accepting bribes. Although he was found not guilty in his first trial, he was convicted in a second trial and sent into exile. Several years later, Julius Caesar allowed him to return to Rome. Around the same time, the Roman leader Marcus Licinius Crassus became governor of Syria, but he was killed by the Parthians at the Battle of Carrhae in 53 BC.
Back in Egypt, Ptolemy XII punished those who had supported his daughter Berenice IV during his exile. He ordered Berenice and many of her supporters to be executed and took their property. He also allowed the Roman soldiers who had helped restore him to remain in Alexandria. These soldiers often caused trouble in the city, and many Egyptians disliked their presence. Ptolemy also placed the Roman banker Gaius Rabirius Postumus in charge of Egypt's finances. However, Rabirius collected so much money in taxes that people became furious, forcing him to return to Rome for his own safety. Despite these problems, Ptolemy XII made important plans for the future of Egypt. In his will, he named Cleopatra and her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, as the next rulers of the kingdom. He also supported the construction of beautiful temples, including those at Edfu and Dendra, and helped improve Egypt's economy. In 52 BC, Cleopatra was officially given more responsibility in government and began helping her father rule the country. When Ptolemy XII died, the money he still owed to Roman lenders became the responsibility of Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII.
Becoming Queen of Egypt.
When Ptolemy XII died in 51 BC, Cleopatra became Queen of Egypt. One of her first duties was to travel to the city of Hermonthis, near Thebes, to take part in an important religious ceremony. There, she welcomed a new sacred Bacchus bull, an animal believed to represent the Egyptian god Montu. By taking part in this ceremony, Cleopatra showed that she respected Egypt's traditions and wanted to be accepted as a true Egyptian ruler. Cleopatra's reign began during a difficult time. Egypt was suffering from poor harvests because the Nile River had not flooded as much as usual, leading to food shortages and famine. At the same time, groups of unemployed Roman soldiers left behind in Egypt were causing violence and disorder. Cleopatra also inherited a huge debt from her father and owed millions of drachmas to Rome, putting great pressure on the country's finances.
In 50 BC, the Roman governor of Syria sent 2 of his sons to Egypt to ask the Roman soldiers there to help defend Syria against the Parthian Empire. Instead, the soldiers captured and killed the 2 young men. Cleopatra arrested those responsible and sent them to the governor to face justice. However, he returned the prisoners to Egypt, saying that only the Roman Senate had the authority to judge them. This event showed how much influence Rome already had over Egypt's affairs. Although Cleopatra was expected to rule together with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, she soon tried to govern on her own. Official records from 51 BC began listing only Cleopatra as the ruler, suggesting that she no longer accepted her brother as her co-ruler. Like many rulers of the Ptolemaic dynasty, Cleopatra may have married her brother, following the family's ancient tradition of royal sibling marriage. Although this custom was common in the royal family, many Greeks strongly disliked it.
Ptolemy XIII, however, was not willing to give up power. He had the support of several powerful advisors, including his guardian Pothinos, the military commander Achilles, and his teacher Theodotus of Chios. Together, they worked against Cleopatra and helped Ptolemy strengthen his position. By the end of 50 BC, Ptolemy XIII had gained the upper hand in the struggle for the throne. Official documents began placing his name before Cleopatra's, showing that he had taken control of much of the government. This growing rivalry would soon lead to a civil war that changed the future of Egypt forever.
Pompey's final journey.
In the summer of 49 BC, Cleopatra and her brother, Ptolemy XIII, were still fighting for control of Egypt. During the conflict, Gnaeus Pompeius, the son of the Roman general Pompey, arrived in Alexandria to ask for military help. Pompey had been defeated by his rival, Julius Caesar, and needed ships and soldiers to continue the war. Although Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII were enemies, they agreed to help Pompey. Together, they sent him 60 ships and 500 soldiers, hoping to strengthen their relationship with Rome. Soon afterward, Cleopatra lost more ground in the civil war and was forced to flee Alexandria. She escaped to Thebes and later traveled to Roman Syria with her younger sister, Arsinoe IV, to gather an army. When Cleopatra returned to Egypt, her brother's forces blocked her path to Alexandria, so she set up camp near the city of Pelusium in the eastern Nile Delta.
Meanwhile, Caesar defeated Pompey at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC. Pompey escaped by sea and decided to seek safety in Egypt, where he hoped to rebuild his army. However, Ptolemy XIII's advisors feared that helping Pompey would drag Egypt deeper into Rome's civil war. They secretly came up with a plan to kill him. On September 28, 48 BC, Pompey arrived near Pelusium after receiving a message that promised him a warm welcome. Instead, he was attacked and murdered as soon as he stepped onto a small boat. Believing this would please Caesar, Ptolemy XIII ordered Pompey's head to be cut off and preserved before sending it as a gift to the Roman leader.
When Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria a few days later, he was shocked and saddened by Pompey's murder. Although Pompey had been his enemy, the two men had once been friends and allies. Instead of praising Ptolemy XIII, Caesar condemned the killing. He then ordered both Ptolemy XIII and Cleopatra to stop fighting and settle their dispute peacefully. This decision marked the beginning of Caesar's direct involvement in Egypt's struggle for the throne.
Cleopatra and Julius Caesar.
When Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria in 48 BC, he ordered Ptolemy XIII to dismiss his army and settle his dispute with Cleopatra peacefully. However, Ptolemy ignored Caesar's command and marched into the city with his soldiers. At first, Cleopatra sent messengers to speak with Caesar, but she soon decided to meet him herself.
According to the ancient historian Plutarch, Cleopatra secretly entered the royal palace by hiding inside a rolled-up carpet or bed sack that was carried to Caesar's room. When the bundle was opened, the young queen appeared before him. Another ancient historian, Cassius Dio, wrote that Cleopatra simply dressed beautifully and impressed Caesar with her intelligence and charm. Whatever really happened, their first meeting became one of the most famous moments in history. When Ptolemy XIII learned that Cleopatra was meeting with Caesar, he became furious. He tried to stir up the people of Alexandria against them, but Caesar calmed the angry crowd with a powerful speech. He then brought Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII together and read the will of their father, Ptolemy XII. The document clearly stated that the two siblings were meant to rule Egypt together. Caesar also suggested that Cleopatra's younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, and her sister, Arsinoe IV, should rule Cyprus, hoping this would reduce tension within the royal family.
Ptolemy XIII's advisors were not willing to accept Caesar's decision. One of his most trusted advisors, Pothinos, ordered the general Achilles to attack Alexandria with an army of about 20,000 soldiers. Caesar had only around 4,000 troops, making the situation extremely dangerous. After Caesar had Pothinos executed, Arsinoe IV escaped from the palace, joined Achilles, and declared herself queen. Soon afterward, Achilles was killed, and Arsinoe's advisor Ganymedes took command of the army. Ganymedes tricked Caesar into releasing Ptolemy XIII, pretending that he wanted to negotiate peace. Instead, Ptolemy joined the Egyptian army fighting against Caesar. Caesar and Cleopatra soon found themselves trapped inside the royal palace as enemy forces surrounded them. This became known as the Siege of Alexandria, a long and dangerous conflict that continued into 47 BC and would decide the future of Egypt.
Caesar's victory and Cleopatra's new beginning.
Early in 47 BC, Julius Caesar received thousands of reinforcements led by Mithridates of Pergamon and Antipater the Idumean. With these new troops, he marched against the forces of Ptolemy XIII and Arsinoe IV near the Nile River. During the battle, Ptolemy XIII tried to escape by boat, but the boat overturned and he drowned. His defeat ended the civil war. Arsinoe IV was captured, taken to Rome, and later sent into exile at the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. During this time, Cleopatra remained in the royal palace. Many historians believe she was expecting Caesar's child, which is why she did not take part in the fighting. After the victory, Caesar settled the dispute over the Egyptian throne. To follow Egyptian tradition, he named Cleopatra and her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, as joint rulers. Although they were officially married, Cleopatra remained the true ruler of Egypt and continued her close relationship with Caesar.
Some ancient writers claim that Caesar and Cleopatra later traveled together along the Nile River, visiting Egypt's famous temples and monuments. They may have sailed on a magnificent royal barge called the Thalamigos, a huge floating palace with luxurious rooms, gardens, and places for celebrations. Although some historians believe this journey really happened, others think it may have been a romantic story added many years later. Around April 47 BC, Caesar left Egypt to deal with new military threats in Asia Minor. Before leaving, he made sure Cleopatra's throne was secure by stationing several Roman legions in Egypt. These soldiers protected Cleopatra from her enemies, but they also allowed Rome to keep a close watch on Egypt. Even after Caesar's departure, his influence remained strong, and Cleopatra's future became closely tied to the growing power of Rome.